Hello and welcome to this edition of Bayou Time. Again, I'm your host, Keith Weissite, licensed clinical social worker with Terrebonne Home Care. Very glad you're joining us. However you may be joining us, we appreciate it. And again, we've talked about all the good things and the new things that are happening here in this new year. I can't think of a better example of events that are coming up than what is happening at La Petite Theatre. Very glad to have with us Mr. Doug Holloway, the board president at La Petite. Thanks for joining us.
Well, it's great to be here, Keith. Thank you for inviting us.
Absolutely. And my friend and colleague and friend in the theater and all of those things, Karen Schilling, board member emeritus from the La Petite as well. And so thanks for joining us, Karen.
Thanks so much. We always like coming in and talking about such good news.
I know that's right. You know, we call Karen all the time. They ask her to help us with social work issues, and we only do that when it's some major event or traumatic event or dramatic event. And now to come in and talk about the theater, I love the fact that we spent some time really building a good finality to Terrebonne 200, and it really introduced a lot of people to the history of the theater. But this particular theater's got some very rich history. Absolutely. Right, Doug?
Yes, it does. Le Petit started in 1938. Okay. And it did shows until 1945. And then there was 1942.
1942, okay.
1942 to 1955, there was a break.
Okay.
Because of World War II and the Korean War.
Right.
And then it kicked back off again in 1955, and that's when Edwina Jakobczak, who is our longest-serving board member, became a board member. And from 1955 to 1961, they performed at what was then the new Terrebonne High School. Okay, in the auditorium there.
Right.
And then they reached a point where they needed to, they wanted a place of their own.
Absolutely. Okay. We all do, right?
Right. And so, and they were limited to only one performance while they were at Terrebonne High School.
Per year.
Because, per show. There was only one performance per show.
Oh, one performance per show, okay.
Yeah. So then what they did was the board wanted to pass a millage. But the parish leaders, and at that time we had a police jury and a mayor, I think the city leaders said, let's pump the brakes on that. And we have this building downtown that's the old city hall at 7829 Main Street that we will lease to you for the exorbitant price of $1 a year. Okay, so they couldn't pass that up. You know,
right?
And so as a result, you know, with the idea in operation since 1938 and doing all those, you know, temporary places, we finally were going to be able to have a place of our own. They were able to defray the cost of renovating the old bank, because it had been two banks actually. The building was the People's Bank and then the Bank of Houma. It was also City Hall, and it was actually also the jail.
The jail, that's right, I remember that.
And most of our patrons will remember the bathrooms, where we had our bathrooms, where the vaults of where the banks were.
Right.
But in the early 1960s, when we were able to secure that agreement with parish government, there was a $15,000 renovation project that had to take place in order to get the building ready to become a theater.
Okay.
So they consulted with a theater architect out of Shreveport. They raised about $5,000 to help with the renovation costs. And I don't see any records of where the other $10,000 came from, but we were able to renovate the theater into what we had always traditionally had seen in the theater, with the one bathroom in the vault, and and the lengths of intermission determined to be how long it took people to come out of the bathroom. But yeah, so we've had a great history, a lot of really wonderful plays. Our very first play that we ever did was not even done in the theater. We talked about this before at Terrebonne 200.
That's right.
It was in 1938, and we did a play called The Night of January 16th by Anne Rand.
Anne Rand, right.
And it was a courtroom drama, and we were able to make arrangements with then Judge Cleve Marcel. They were building the new courthouse, and before he actually heard a case in his courtroom, he gave us permission to do The Night of January 16th, and we probably only did it one night.
Right.
And that was in the courtroom.
And it was in the courtroom.
The new one.
Absolutely, and
The first trial was the January 16th.
it was the night of January 16th, and then since then the theater has done that production 2 other times
Right.
as fundraisers. Once to celebrate the 50th anniversary
Right.
of the theater in 1988. We did it October 6th, 7th, and 8th, and then we did it a few years, not too long ago, actually, to raise money to help renovate the theater.
Yeah.
Yeah, interestingly enough, right, as we're making plans for the theater, then 50 years renovating,
Yes.
and then now renovating again the theater. And the history there is just so very rich, and the number of people's lives touched by the theater. See, I think about that over the years, because I've known Edwina my entire life.
Yeah.
Because of the theater, going to the theater, and then being involved in the theater. And we'll talk about that a little bit later as well. But the history is so very rich and so very unique that you do it at a school that's close by. And now the transition has become to doing it doing that play only one time, to now what we do historically is a 2-week period.
Yes.
Right. Absolutely.
You know, with the hiatus that we've been on with pandemic and with the hurricane and renovations, we don't really know who our audience is, and we don't know who our members are. So we're still experimenting with, that run. So we're going to be doing things a little bit different
Ooh,
this
nice.
time around, just to kind of see how things work.
And again, that's about the maturation and the growth of the theater over the years, trying to figure out in kind of a needs assessment, what do our patrons need?
Right.
And how, because the theater and people in the theater can kind of do what they need to make sure that happens. It's so exciting to talk about, because I can think back to and I didn't have a lot of experience doing theater. I've only done 10 or 11 shows or plays, but, Karen, it used to be, looking at the history, where that's how people came together. And I will tell you, the people I've met in the theater are lifelong friends. And that's what I think people need to know about what the theater has been and can be again.
My own story beginning in the theater was because of Weta Best. She was our high school math teacher, and imagine her offering us extra points for our math scores or whatever if we'd come see her in the play.
Right.
And boy, we got
Mousetrap.
there.
Right.
We all needed
I
extra
know
points.
that's
in math.
right.
But you know what?
It was math night at the theater.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But it instilled an absolute joy and love for all of us that did that, and then some of us didn't need extra points but went anyway,
Right.
But she was smart to say that's the hook to get us there to go and start experiencing what theater was all about, and so you know what, it's a tribute to her that we're all still doing this.
Right. I love it. Yeah. And in fact, her name came up in conversation for me just last week. And that was just one of those discussions. And it just, that moment of like, oh, all of the things that she did, but all of the people that have done that and dedicated. And you won't always know the people that are so dedicated. As we were talking a little bit earlier, I want to talk about the ribbon cutting. That's important. But I think if people hear and watch this and they see that the reopening of the theater that's got more than one bathroom.
Right.
I mean, listen,
Right.
you can't really talk about the history of the theater without talking about the fact that it's only had one bathroom, and now we have these bathrooms that are disability bathrooms as
Right.
well, and there's men's and women's bathrooms.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we had that one bathroom, what Edwina used to call our bisexual bathroom.
Right, that's right, that's right.
And now we have two. We have the men's and the ladies when you first come in the door. We have 2 handicap accessible ramps that have 2 new doors where the people in wheelchairs can come in, and they'll be coming into the theater and not backstage.
Not backstage, not
like
as
they
part of
used to. Right.
the cast.
Exactly. And there's a lot of new things we have at the theater. We have brand new seats.
Right, which
It's
is-
at 144 now. With the audience balcony runs all the way across now. where it
Instead
used
of
to
just partially.
Just partial
And we've
balcony.
eliminated that dangerous catwalk that everybody.
Right, yeah, the catwalk's no longer there. And we have new lights, new stage lights, new house lights. Everything's, the electricity's new, the plumbing's new. We have new HVAC, so people are not sitting there fanning themselves in the summertime and
Or
freezing in the
winter,
wintertime.
right.
Exactly.
And the seats
And
are very comfortable.
comfortable,
Those
right.
are all brand new seats.
Brand new
we
seats.
were all we had planned to use those seats that we had because they were still great.
Right.
But we had some generous patrons and Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government that really stepped up and said, hey, let's do this
new.
Do everything new.
And it really is a community theater in the sense that, and let me talk a little bit about the cost.
Okay.
Back then in the early 60s, it was $15,000
For the
us
renovation.
to renovate it, to make it a theater. It was $1.8 million at the final cost
Right.
to get the theater renovated. Wow. $500,000 of that came from money that Le Petit was able to contribute through the generous donations and sponsorships of the people in the community.
That is correct.
You know, that love theater.
Right.
And $600,000 of that came from the parish.
Right.
And $700,000 of that came from the state. And Norby Jabert, when he was state senator, was the driving force in that.
Right.
But our entire legislative delegation helped get that money. And past parish president, you know, Michel Claudet,
right.
and then Gordy Dove has been tremendously helpful. He went to the parish council and was able to help pay for the seats.
Oh, okay. That they offered to be able to do.
Right, for the
Wow.
theater.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it has really been, it's a community theater in the real sense.
And the most important thing I think about that is that people can participate on so many levels.
Absolutely.
Please don't think that just the theater is just the people you see coming on and off the stage
Right.
and acting.
Precisely. It's not just about acting. We
No.
have directors, we have producers, we have stage managers, we have set designers and builders, we have people that run the lights and the sound. So anytime anybody wants to get involved or is interested in the theater, all they have to do is go to homalittletheater.com, click on the email, send an email to us, say, hey, I'm interested in the theater. I want to become involved. And they don't have to be a board member.
No.
They can come
But
in.
if they want to be a
if they
board
want
member,
to be-
they can as
Here's a
well.
shout out. Shout out right here to the board members. We have availability for that because that helps make the decisions and drive the ships.
Absolutely.
And if you're interested, come and experience the theater. You can really help buy a brick, very cheap.
Right.
$75 to buy, I mean $100 to buy a
for a brick.
brick. Or $75 for a season. That you can't get that anywhere else. Trust me, and it's worth it. And so in our last minute, just some final thoughts, Karen, about what we want people to know.
Well, we want, as you said, this is a cornerstone of growth in downtown Houma. Plenty of opportunity for people to get involved in all sorts of different ways. Absolutely. Just sharing their ideas, giving us feedback on what kind of plays they want to see, serving on the board, coming and taking a tour Thursday afternoon. We're going to have a ribbon cutting.
And ribbon cutting
and
on the
an open
12th, Thursday
house
afternoon.
for people to come in and see.
At what time?
The ribbon cutting's at 4.
4 o'clock. Right.
And
Want to make sure people knew.
The public's open to come from 5:30 to 7:30.
5:30 to 7:30. Enjoy that. Again, it's a shout out to say if you decide to do this, send an email and they will voluntold you about what comes next. I promise. Karen, thank you so much for the years
Thank
and the
you,
help and
Keith.
support. Doug, thank you. We appreciate
you,
it.
Keith.
And that will do it for us here for this particular segment of Bayou Time. Don't go anywhere. A lot more here from HTV.